It's all you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tamara Hall. I am a Race Equity Community Safety Representative for the Reimagining Public Safety Community Advisory Committee. Welcome. We are going to begin. So I called this meeting to order. We are here, just as a reminder, we are here to engage in a community-led process that we believe can lead to meaningful recommendations for reform and alternatives to policing in our community. There is a translation available in Spanish. So if you click the globe for interpretation, you'll have that Spanish option. If you speak English, please select English as your interpretation option. And then we do have Lori Valdez available if there are any issues. So some information, if you were nominated to serve on this committee by an organization, you should have received an invitation to be a panelist. If you sign in with the email that was sent to it, should automatically do it. If for some reason you were not automatically set up as a panelist and were nominated, you will be promoted. Please pay attention to your screen to accept the promotion to panelist as it requires you to accept the promotion. Accessibility, if you have any other suggestions on how to make this meeting more accessible, please email Chris Logan at christopherl@sacredheartcs.org. So now, if anyone would like to do a public comment, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on. I'm going to read this land acknowledgement statement. We respectfully acknowledge that we host this meeting on the lands of the Muwekma Ohlone people who have stewarded this land through generations. We commit ourselves to partner with our Indigenous sisters and brothers to celebrate and honor their legacy in our collective work for justice and in our care for these lands we benefit from today. Another opportunity, if anyone would like to give public comment, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on. We will have our first, our only lived experience testimony for today. And so I'm going to invite that person to do so. And who was that again, Chris?
Elsa, Elsa
okay.
tonight.
Elsa. I'm looking, is Elsa here?
She's on.
Okay.
She said she's on, she's listening, so.
Is it the phone number, possibly, Lori?
Let me see, let me ask.
Caller ending in 4218. If you are Elsa Lopez, can you?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Elsa.
It's a Dell laptop.
Dell laptop. I'm not seeing that in our participant list.
She could hear everybody.
Yeah. Okay, Lori, why don't you and I work on that, and hopefully we can maybe bring it back after our presentation from the city attorneys.
Okay.
Okay. Is that okay that we move on then? Okay.
Yeah, we'll figure out how to get her on.
Okay, since there's no testimony, we'll do public comment after that's shared. We're gonna go to the presentation from the Office of the City Attorney. And this is Tara Chafee, who I believe is giving the presentation.
Yes, Tara Chafee from the City Attorney's Office. Good evening. Peter's going to put the presentation up for me. He's going to be so kind as to do that tech stuff for me so I don't screw it up. Thanks, Peter. So this evening, my name's Tara Chafee. I'm with the City Attorney's Office. I'm going to go through this PowerPoint with you a bit. One thing I want to mention is that this was reviewed by several different attorneys in my office. So if you have questions, I'm more than happy to hear them. I will try to answer them. However, if it is something that I don't know the answer to because it was, you know, it's in a subject matter that one of my colleagues works on primarily, I may have to take those questions back and disseminate answers at a later date. But I will attempt to answer questions if I know the answers to them. Before we get started, Peter, why don't you go to the first page so they can see what we're looking at. So before we get started, you'll see we have this table here, and the first two columns are the number of your recommendation and its title, and then after that there's a column that says meet and confer. And after that, there's a column that says ballot measure. We pulled out meet and confer and ballot measure because these are things that are commonly coming up when looking over these proposals. And I want to kind of just briefly go through what that means. Meet and confer is a term used in labor law, and under California law, city management must provide reasonable advance written notice to employee organizations, unions, or bargaining groups whenever it intends to implement a rule or workplace change that will likely affect employees in that unit or department on the matters of wages, hours, and other terms and conditions of employment. At the employee organization's request, the union or bargaining group's request, management has the obligation to meet and confer regarding the matter before implementation occurs. Meeting and conferring must be done in good faith, meaning it must continue for a reasonable period of time in order to exchange information, provide opinions on the matter and proposals, and to endeavor to reach agreement on matters within the scope of representation. Again, all this has to happen prior to implementation. Both the City Attorney's Office and the Office of Employee Relations, which is the department at the city that deals with the bargaining groups and meeting and conferring, have gone through and flagged those proposals, those recommendations of the committee that may be subject to meet and confer obligations. Ballot measures. A ballot measure, the next column over, is something that the city council must place on the ballot at a general election for the city's voters to approve before it can go into effect. Amendments to the city charter require a ballot measure, and the creation or the increase of a tax also requires a ballot measure. Go to the voters for approval. Okay, now the last column is the other issues column, and that's what the other issues noted column, and that's what I'm gonna focus on now. And you know, obviously you'll have time to review this presentation after, and other questions may pop up as well. But now that we've gone past meet and confer and ballot measure, which you can look at and hopefully you have some understanding of, we'll go through the other issues. So the first one is ACC 2, and in there we have potential violation of Penal Code Section 832.7. What that means is, hold on, okay. Penal Code 832.7 is a state law that requires the confidentiality of peace officer personnel records except in certain situations. So in ACC 2, allowing access to the public to arbitration decisions may violate Penal Code 832.7. The next one, oh, we're not on the next page, right, Peter? No. Okay.
Right, yeah, that was missing.
Okay. The next one is ACC 5, and it says pre-discipline hearing is required prior to removal from paid status. Privacy rights issue of no nexus to incident and drug testing. Government code requires employers to indemnify employees and provide equipment, tools to perform their jobs. That's a mouthful. So first, with respect to the first thing listed there, so ACC 5 proposes that administrative leave without pay can't, happen. Proposes that administrative leave be without pay. And administrative leave without pay can't happen under state law until there is a pre-discipline hearing. So that's problematic. It also proposes that drug testing of officers be required in certain instances, and that can't happen under state law in every use of force case as is proposed, because there have to be facts supporting a reasonable suspicion that an officer is under the influence before a drug test can be required by the employer. And then with respect to the last thing listed, the California Government Code, which is a state law as well, requires local government agencies to indemnify their employees when they're within the course and scope of employment, absent certain criminal or willful behavior. And that's just a requirement of local government agencies for their employees. Moving on to ACC 7. This is again Penal Code 832.7 being listed as another issue. The release of disciplinary records of all officers involved in shootings, which is proposed in ACC 7, may violate Penal Code 832.7 because Penal Code 832.7 requires peace officer personnel records be kept confidential except in certain enumerated situations. Okay. Then moving on to ACC 8, which says a potential Proposition 209 California Constitution issue. Proposition 209 is codified in the California Constitution. The issue with ACC 8 that has been noted by the City Attorney's Office is that it includes within it the phrase that there would be specific goals related to achieving a representative proportion of police officers who are from certain demographics. And based on Proposition 209, which is in the California Constitution, the city can't make a hiring decision based on someone's protected category. The prime example of this is no quotas. So to the extent that ACC 8 is proposing some type of specific goal, i.e. a quota, that's problematic under Proposition 209. We can certainly conduct outreach and various recruitment tactics to create a diverse pool of applicants, however. But hiring decisions can't be made based on protected categories, i.e. Race, sex, ethnicity, or national origin. Okay, moving on to ACC 12. So that proposes traffic law enforcement be moved to the Department of Transportation. This could be problematic because state law statutes, like the California Vehicle Code, the California Vehicle Code is state law, and that's where all the traffic laws live in California. That can only be enforced by peace officers under the provisions of state law. Civilian city employees are limited in what they can enforce under state law. Civilian city employees cannot enforce state violations of the vehicle code, such as speeding or reckless driving or other types of traffic laws under state law. ACC 15, this is similar to one above. The proposal includes that suspension without pay occur while the incident is under review. That's problematic because under California law, leave without pay can't happen until there's a pre-discipline hearing. And a pre-discipline hearing can't be held while the incident is still under review, because the police department has to provide the employee with the basis for the discipline prior to holding the pre-discipline hearing. ACC 19. Okay, that proposal included a provision in it that community service would be performed as a requirement of the job and not be paid. It'd be voluntary and unpaid. The issue with that is that federal wage and hour law, which the city is required to follow, requires that the city pay employees for any time that is required by their job. Okay, AS5. This is similar to the issue with the DOT proposal. Well, I mean, it's a little bit less clear with this proposal, because this proposal was that community service officers be sent to basically be sent to calls that they can handle, to something to that extent. It was a little unclear from the proposal exactly what that meant, but to the extent that the idea is they be sent out on certain calls that may involve state law enforcement, that's somewhat problematic, because state laws generally can only be enforced by peace officers. Civilian city employees are limited in what they can enforce, and they cannot enforce violations of state laws that are misdemeanors or felonies, and they cannot arrest people. So that's the issue there. PP6. This one, the notation says the city does not have vagrancy laws. There was a little bit of confusion in our office on this one. We don't have vagrancy laws. There's no sections in the San Jose Municipal Code that make it illegal to be in the city and not have a visible means of support. But there was a mention in the proposal that the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty had noted that San Jose has certain laws along those lines, and we weren't sure in city attorney what that was referring to. If there's more information on that, we're happy to take a look at it. But we weren't really able to figure out what they were referring to. PP11. So that one we just wanted to note, because it seemed to be talking a lot about public health and mental health services being changed in some way or facilitated in some way, and those are county functions, not city functions, and the city doesn't really have any responsibility for those functions. PP14, this is similar as well. This proposal talks about a lot of potential changes to Child Protective Services, CPS, and Child Protective Services is a county function. So for San Jose, Santa Clara County performs that function. They have a Child Protective Services department or unit, and the city has no authority or control over Child Protective Services. And then lastly, PP15, in looking over that proposal, it talks a lot about the way that crimes are charged, the setting of bail, and the pretrial treatment of persons being charged with certain offenses. None of that is within the control of the city. Those things are under the control of the district attorney, who is an elected official of the county of Santa Clara, within the control of the county themselves with respect to treatment of persons at the jail awaiting a hearing, or within the control of the courts. The setting of bail is within the control of the courts, and the courts, Santa Clara County Court is part of the state. The Superior Court is part of the California state government. So that's my run through of all the other issues that were noted. and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
So now we'll move into public comment on the presentation. And please raise your hand if you would like to give a public comment on what we just heard and saw. So I'll go to Lori.
Yeah, thanks. I have a question. So you had mentioned that AAC2, ACC7, they were both in violation of 832.7. So how does SB 1421, that was supposed to resolve the transparency as far as officers in critical incidents, that was supposed to be part of the SB 1421 where people can get that information of officers misconduct when it's excessive force or there's a death in it. So how come you're telling us that that's a violation?
So are we then going back, or are we going to allow everyone to give public comment and then going back?
I know that normally, so this is a very different meeting for us, but I think it's going to be really important for us to kind of get the handle on this in practice. So I know that normally in city, like they take all the public comment all at the same time, and then allow for staff and anyone else to provide answers to the public comment in total. I don't know if you have any guidance or Peter, what you're.
Yeah, I would just note that generally in like city council meetings, public comment means members of the public who are attending the meeting. It doesn't necessarily mean members of the body. So if you wanted to start with just members of the public who aren't members of the body, and then move into like a back and forth between the members here and whatever questions you have, that's probably consistent with the way we usually do it.
So then I have a question. How would I know that? Because I don't see all the participants. I only see panelists.
Under the attendees list at the bottom of your screen, on the right-hand side, it says attendees, and left-hand side, it says panelists.
Okay. Thank you. So I don't see any raised hands on attendees. We're gonna
I've
go.
raised my hand. I'm confused. This is Sparky.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. I
One of
was
the-
gonna go to you next. So-
Okay, because normally it's like you ask the panelists first to ask questions and it goes back and forth and then public comments at the end. Isn't that how we've normally done it? I'm just not sure. I guess I was doing more clarification. Did you want me to wait for public comment first or talk as a panelist?
It's public comment, priorities given to attendees. There's no attendees, so we're going to panelists, and you're next.
Okay, I missed the last meeting, so maybe it changed, so I'm thrown off a little bit. I have a couple of questions for the city attorney. Let me
Okay,
put my.
I'm sorry. Can I interrupt for just a second, Sparky?
Okay.
I'm sorry. I got a little confused too during all this. So I'm sorry. The first question was a panelist asking, correct? Okay. So if we're on to
Okay.
panelists now, then I probably should answer that question. I thought we were on public comment.
No, it's fine. We're figuring out as we go too. So yeah.
Okay, okay, so-
Lori's a panelist. Yes.
Okay, so can I answer that question and then we can hear from Sparky, and then if I
Yeah,
can answer her
I'll-
question, I'll answer that question and we can go back and forth then, since we're on to panelists now. Okay. So if I'm understanding the first question correctly, the question was about SB 1421. SB 1421 was a change in the law. It changed Penal Code 832.7. The issue that was identified by our office on these two proposals related to 832.7 would be with respect to releasing records connected with incidents that fall outside of SB 1421. The records that fall within incidents in SB 1421 are going to be public. I mean, and they are already, the department has made them public. So I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Okay, Sparky.
Okay, mine's kind of similar. Sometimes when you talk to your attorneys, it's one thing. I know city attorneys and county attorneys tend to tell you, these are the problems with what you're proposing. What I also like to get from attorneys is, what do we need to do to make this work? For instance, talking about affirmative action, yes, you can run up against issues with Prop 209, but if you set targets and targeted recruitment, we know how to get around it legally. So I guess what I would ask a city attorney, are you willing to look at each of these sort of areas and say, this is how we can narrow this so it will work? Not the issue of this is the problem, but this is how to make it work.
Yes, I mean, well, I already, within the Prop 209 one, I already suggested that, outreach can be done to try to raise numbers with certain groups of persons applying. And that sort of thing would be something that the city's human resources department could work on for sure. As far as like looking at each proposal and determining, what the fix is for it, I would need to talk with our office's management about the resources involved with that. You have a lot of recommendations. Some of them that I noted, are really kind of outside the city's control. So I guess my question would be is if the recommendations are going to be narrowed at some point, such that it would be a project that would be more workable within our office to help you with.
See, I would agree, because I said the same thing working with the county. I knew the CPS one that's county. There's some of these that are specific to the county. I think the issues with the POA or police department, I think maybe it's helpful if there could be some back and forth. I mean, is there a way to have a small group sit down with your office maybe and say, here's some of our ideas. So instead of rewrite the whole thing and it's wrong again, kind of maybe a back and forth and saying, this is what we wanted, what works, what doesn't, and you help the committee narrow some of these requests maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think something like that could probably work. Again, I can't speak for my office because I'm not management for my office.
Yeah,
But I think something like that could work. Like if I know you have some subcommittees that maybe if a project were given to a subcommittee, a smaller subset that could work with our office, that could probably be more workable. Yes.
So I guess I would suggest that to the broader group steering committee. Maybe you could look at that on Friday. Thanks.
Okay, Sandra.
Hi, thanks. So I was going to say something to the effect of what Sparky said, so she covered my question there. My next question is about ACC2 and the issue with the penal code. It's my understanding that the current contract with the POA already allows for disclosure. So I'm curious as to why that disclosure would then run afoul of that penal code.
Well, I'll be honest, I'm not aware, I'm not the labor and employment attorney for the city attorney's office, and I'm not aware that that's in the POA's current MOA. It might be that it may be redacted versions, I'm not sure, or it may be in certain circumstances, but this was flagged by our labor and employment attorney as being a potential issue.
Okay, so yeah, because it is in provision 25.8.6.1, and it speaks to obviously redacting to maintain privacy, but because it gives an obligation of sharing, publicizing the outcomes of dispute resolution. I'm wondering why that would then impact this resolution.
Well, I'm going to guess that probably the issue is that this doesn't say that the decisions are going to be made public, but redacted for officer privacy.
Okay, so maybe we just need to finesse some of the language.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that put here, so in the proposal or in the recommendations, so that could very well be the issue. I can clarify that with our labor and employment attorney, but I'm guessing that's what was being flagged.
Okay, great. So again, maybe that's one of those issues for that small group to again work through, being able to still meet the spirit and intent of our recommendations, but within the guidelines and the legalities that we have to work with. And then my question on the hiring, my background is in HR. So I understand, not being, having quotas, but I think the spirit and the intent beyond just outreach is to have a police force that reflects the makeup of our city. So if we have the wording that maybe doesn't have percentages in it, but is asking to meet that spirit and intent of let our force match the makeup of our city, would that be acceptable? Something along those lines be acceptable?
My understanding is if there's not hard numbers, it probably would be okay. So something along those lines would probably be okay. I would leave that up to city HR to maybe weigh in on as well. We've had programs along those lines in the past.
Okay. And were there any issues with reporting out to the public, the progress along those lines?
In the past?
No, with this resolution. So I know that companies have to provide EEOC. If they get audited, they have to provide reports on their progress. Mm-hmm. So we're saying we want reports on the progress made to move the composition of the police force more in line with our city. Could mm-hmm. there be reports made? Could those reports be made public? Is there any issue with that?
I'm not aware of an issue with that. The issue with that usually, to my knowledge, is that it's voluntary to report ethnicity or sure. national origin, et cetera. So the reports, are not always complete or accurate when we've been asked for information along those lines in the past, because the employees can choose not to report.
Sure. So putting an asterisk on the report, just being transparent about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, Sandra, on that one, I would note that this is a topic that the city's public safety, finance and strategic support committee has been interested in. And so we have instituted a yearly report that's, I think, generally on this topic. So I'd be happy to send that to you if you want to take a look and see what we've done in the past.
Yeah, that would be great. Very helpful.
Okay,
Thank you.
Pancho?
Thank you. Tara, I'm curious about a couple of things. One of them is that I'm taking for granted that the fact that there were a number of proposals that were not listed in your report, that there aren't meet and confer or other legal issues with the ones that are not listed as part of the report.
Correct. The ones not listed didn't have any identified issues. Okay. By our office.
Thank you. A follow-up on the one specifically talking about, I think it's ACC, AS5, expansion of the CSO program. Where would we be able to get some information about the types of things that, for example, the CSOs currently in San Jose address a number of different pieces, including investigating mm-hmm. crimes that need to be, adjudicated or need to be dealt with by law enforcement, but they're dealing with, like, for example, the investigation of something after the fact or other pieces. And I think it's come to our knowledge that, to our awareness that there are a lot of things that CSOs can be sent out to that they're not. There's a pretty significant percentage that are being dealt with by law enforcement, but are CSO eligible. How would we be able to ascertain what are certain kinds of things that other types of things that they can do that are currently not being done by law enforcement? We know that there are a significant number of calls for service that are not criminal in nature, and those are obvious, but some of them are kind of dealing with other types of issues that it's more like investigating, like different types of things. Where would we get some awareness of like what really needs to be law enforcement, like you had done for the traffic enforcement ones, kind of looking at the California California Vehicle Code, and which are ones that are not? And I don't know if the definition of who needs to respond to like these things would be. I'm curious about where we'd find more information about that.
That is a really great question, and I don't have a really good answer. You would probably want to, is there a liaison for the police department with this committee? You probably want to talk it through with them about what the nature of the calls for service are and the volume and what sorts of calls they get and things of that nature. The issue with the CSOs in our office's mind, is that when you get a call for service, what is reported isn't always what's happening, right? And that's why the CSOs are often an after the fact kind of response. And then also, and along with that, the meet and confer obligation. If work is going to move from employees represented by the POA, the San Jose Police Officers Association, and over to the CSOs, there's that meet and confer obligation as well.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that.
Sorry, I can't be more helpful on that.
You're trying, that helps.
Jewel?
Hi, thank you, Tara, for attending and answering all these questions. I'm curious on ACC 8 that has to do with equity and inclusion. I'm wondering if we would have access to the department's current recruitment outsourcing process to see who the city is working with currently in their outreach to recruiting officers, if they're engaging agencies such as Women Back to Work that do recruitment outsourcing for women and minorities. So I'm really curious because as Sandra and Sparky pointed out, there's not really a match for the city. The police, the current staff of police don't really match what's in the city. So I'm curious if we can see what that process, who they are currently using and what that process is like there that way. So,
Yeah, I can't think of any reason legally why you wouldn't be able to know about what their current recruitment process and outreach is. That should be publicly available if you ask for it.
And Jewel, I would also note the report that I mentioned to Sandra. So I've just looked it up. It went to the August 18th Public Safety, Finance, and Strategic Support Committee meeting. And I think it may be at least a starting point in answering these questions. So I'll send that to Chris, and maybe he can send it out for folks to look at.
Okay. So if I understand you, Tara, we need to ask for the recruitment outsourcing report or process.
If you want to get, if you don't ask, no one's probably going to give it to you. So, I'm sure if you ask Peter to get it for you, the city can get it to you. I would imagine. There's no reason why you can't have that information. It's not confidential. What sorts of ways the police department advertises their recruiting.
I curious. I mean, advertising it is one. Okay. All right. Okay, Tara. So yeah, it would be great to have that report, Peter, and to also know what agencies or organizations the police force is using to recruit their staff outside of, you know, a blitz or a workforce advertisement. So yeah, okay. All right. Thank you.
Reverend Sammy?
Hi, Tara. I may have missed this in the beginning, but my question is just if you could explain a little bit more about the meet and confer with the POA and other unions. Who does that? What's that process like?
Okay, so sure. No, I gave a little overview at the beginning. For the city, who does it is the Office of Employee Relations. They are the ones that deal with labor relations with the city's bargaining groups or unions, and the POA is a union at the city. And so whenever the city changes a policy that affects work conditions in some way, wages, hours, other, you know, workplace conditions, they have to offer an opportunity to meet and confer. And so OER does that for the city, the Office of Employee Relations. They reach out and they ask if the union wants to meet and confer with them on whatever the proposal is before they implement a change. And if the POA in this instance, although some of the proposals might affect other bargaining groups as well, if the POA says they do want to meet and confer, then they have an obligation to do that in good faith and spend, you know, a reasonable amount of time discussing things with them and going back and forth prior to any implementation of the change in policy.
That's great. Thanks, Tara.
Sure.
I see Sandra and Sparky. Did you two need to speak again? Yes?
I'm just kind of trying to answer Pancho's, you know, it's hard to have a dialogue on some of this stuff because Pancho was talking about the question to the city attorney around sort of diverting police calls to a different group. And they were saying you'd have to do meet and confer. And I just wanted to suggest what happened with all the police chiefs in the county at one time when they were diverting juvenile calls that are criminal in nature, is that all the police chiefs agreed that certain criminal, like low offenders, could be diverted by police directly to the status offender services like Bill Wilson Center without charging them. So this was an example where all the police chiefs said, let's take these low-level sort of crimes, and instead of having them charged or cited, let's divert them to CBOs. And 10 years ago, all the police chiefs have an association agreed to do that. And then they met with all their officers and said, here's the list of offenses. You don't need to charge them. You could just drive them or call these agencies and divert. So I'm just saying that may be a way, Pancho, of trying to look at that type of system to divert some of these offenses. So we might want to look at what we did on the juvenile side years ago. So.
Tarab?
Hi, Trav Ansari here. The recommendations I authored didn't show up on the list, so I'm guessing that there aren't any issues with it. But I had a question similar to Sparky's, which was that my recommendation relates to 988, which is the new behavioral crisis line that the federal government is rolling out. And so the one portion of the recommendation says that the city manager should work with SJPD and the dispatch center to identify a protocol for diverting 988 calls, that call that really, you know, qualify for 988, diverting them to 988. Would that require a meet and confer? Because we're technically diverting calls from 911.
What do you know what number your recommendation was?
One moment. It was AS2.
AS2.
I think it's, let me double check. Sorry. Actually, no, it might be AS1, sorry.
AS1.
It's the kind of last sentence there in the recommendation summary.
Okay. Well, that wasn't flagged by our office. You know, that there's a little bit of a distinction here with, you know, creating a you know, the POA can request to meet and confer over anything, whether, you know, the Office of Employee Relations is the one who's going to make the ultimate call on when things go forward that are going to actually be implemented, whether meet and confer is going to be required. In an abundance of caution, they might, you know, go decide that a proposal like this might be subject to meet and confer and kind of hedge their bets and go ahead and send a notice out to the POA. But there's a little bit of a distinction between like deciding that certain calls for service should have a different response from like a different service agency, and deciding that like that work done by the city is going to be done by a different group of employees entirely at the city. There's a little bit of a distinction there, you know, where it's more clear cut that if you decide that one group of employees at the city is going to now do this work that this other group of employees did, that is, you know, most likely subject to meet and confer versus your proposal.
Appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Sandra?
Yes, thanks. I did have more questions. So thanks for explaining a little bit more about the meet and confer process. And because it's an iterative process with the union, it sounds like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, would the union have to, there could be a provision in one of our recommendations that the union disagrees with, and they would have to vote to approve that, or that provision would be a no-go. Like they would have the ultimate say in that. Is that how that works?
It's a little more complicated than that. So there are certain things that are, and I am not the labor and employment attorney, but I will give it a try to explain. There are certain things that are subject to meet, confer, and agree, and there are certain things that are just subject to meet and confer. If it's only subject to meet and confer, that means that you just meet and confer and talk and discuss it and, you know, try to come to agreement, but if you don't, management goes ahead and implements. If it's subject to meet, confer, and agree, then the union can decide they don't agree, and then it goes through basically a dispute resolution process. And so management may get their way eventually anyway, but it goes through a formal dispute resolution process. That doesn't happen very often at the city. But that's what ultimately happens if there's just no agreement.
Okay, great. And so it sounds like, or correct me if I'm wrong, did your team go through and look at kind of within each of the recommendations, which things would be meet and confer and which would be meet, confer, and agree? Or did they just tag anything that could possibly be one or the other?
Both things have been tagged, and the Office of Employee Relations went through and tagged some of these too, not just our office.
Okay.
For meet and confer. So this is also capturing for the most part, although I will give this disclaimer too, that the Office of Employee Relations didn't have much time to look through this. They received these recommendations late. But they went through and they cast a wider net a bit for flagging things for meet and confer. I think with an eye to knowing what they would want to send out to the POA to advise on, to be cautious.
Okay.
Because that's their job, to be cautious.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if the items are tagged as meet and confer on the list, the report that you gave out, but none are tagged meet, confer, and agree. So does that mean that nothing rose to that level?
No, that's not what that means.
Okay.
We just flag things for meet and confer in general.
Okay, great. Would you be able to provide us with a list of what those items are that would require meet and confer, and which items would require meet, confer, and agree, so that we could go through our recommendations and know kind of where the lay of the land is?
Potentially, although I will say some of your recommendations are not specific enough to follow them to the logical conclusion of what the implications are of them
Some
being.
of them are too general.
Yeah.
Okay. Would it be possible for you, so for the ones that are detailed enough, would it be possible to have that list?
I can inquire about that. Yeah, that would take more time and analysis.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Pancho.
Sure, for the items that that say they go to the ballot, but let's say if something were to actually go to the ballot as a result of community of a community signature gathering campaign to be able to do that, would they still require would there still be a mechanism required for a meet and confer for some of these items, like around police like an oversight structure or whatever? How would that happen?
Okay, so you're asking if there were an initiative put on the ballot by the public.
Yes.
What are the meet and confer ramifications? That's a great question. I don't know the answer to it, Pancho. That's a really good question. Yeah, that's not something I have an answer to. I'd have to inquire it back at my office with the people that deal with that stuff.
Okay, great.
I will make a note of that one.
I had another question just slipped my brain, but I'll come back.
Yeah, I'll ask mine while Pancho's thinking, because mine kind of relates to his with the items that were listed to need a charter requirement. Is there a way for us to maybe segment out those recommendations? Are there areas within that recommendation that would maybe, if you do, sorry, I'm not being very clear. If the recommendation calls for 3 things and 2 require a charter amendment and 1 doesn't, could we split that recommendation up so that the one that doesn't require a charter amendment could go forward, and then the 2 provisions that require a charter amendment could be separate in a package of kind of all provisions that need charter amendments? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, certainly. Or you could decide you want to drop out of the recommendation the things that require a charter amendment potentially, if it's not as important to the committee, and let the rest of the recommendation go forward.
Okay, great. And that's something the small group could sit down with the attorney's office and figure out. Great, thank you.
Pancho, did you still want to go?
My brain isn't functioning
Okay.
per usual.
Thank you so much, Tara, for answering all those questions. And we hope to hear back from you on the other ones that require follow-up. Is there any other comments from the panelists and the representatives of the committee? Darcy?
Just to make a comment to say thank you. This was very, very helpful. And looking for proposals, I appreciate the time you all took.
You're welcome.
Okay, so because we had to postpone the live testimony, we're going to go back to that now. So thank you, Elsa, so much for being patient through that presentation and Q&A. And I believe, trying to look at the participants.
Okay, I think that she's just been promoted.
Okay.
I think Elsa, if you go ahead and unmute, you'll be able to speak.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hear me? My name is Elsa Lopez. I wanted to share my story of my son. His name was Anthony Daniel Santa Cruz, and he was a victim of homicide. This is a picture of him. And he was 17 years old in 2013 when he became a victim of homicide. He was on his way to school, to football practice at San Jose High School when he ran into two men at the corner, and they said something to him, and an argument happened, and his life was taken. The reason why I'm here speaking is because Anthony was a very good kid. As a single mother, Latina, raising my children, you always want the best for your children, and for this to happen to him was devastating to me. I continue to work and try my hardest to take it day by day in time to process the grief. Grief never goes away. The pain will always be there. You know, this was a loss, my youngest son, and it was heartbreaking to lose him, and the way I lost him was it was a homicide. He was stabbed, and he was stabbed in the middle of his heart, and he made it to my mom's house and he collapsed. The reason why I'm here for the public safety and to share my story is because I work with many other mothers that have experienced this loss and this heartbreak. And as a community, we came together and we continue to fight for justice for Anthony and continue to keep his name out there in his legacy. My son, that day of his loss, the day it happened, I remember all the police department being there, the firefighters and everybody. And I felt like nobody would tell me. And I understand it was a homicide case and everything. But I noticed that all my family was taken in. I noticed that my sister, my niece, everybody, quite a few of our family members were taken into custody. And I didn't understand why my family wasn't took into custody. I know they were questioned and things like that, but I was never sat down and explained the process or what's going on. I remember them telling me, they took me downtown to the police department, and they asked me to sit in a room. And this is a mother that just is traumatized of what happened, what she walked up to, and to know that no one even told me my son had lost his life. I figured that out when I seen them tell my husband, and my husband collapsed on the floor. That's how I figured my son was gone. So we go into the police department and they sit me in an interrogation room. I'm sitting there for a couple hours, and they said, "Ma'am, we're going to have your pastor come in." And I go, "I already know my son isn't here. Can someone tell me?" They would send detectives in and out to give me water, and, "Ma'am, we're going to have someone come and talk to you." It was the longest 4 or 5 hours of my life, just sitting there, not knowing what was going on, what's happening, what's the process, what's the procedure, no one sat there to explain it to me. Like, okay, I didn't even know about a morgue. I didn't know about the investigation. I didn't know if we could go to the house, or I didn't know anything, nothing at all. No one sat there and explained anything to me. And then finally they brought my pastor in, and then they came in and told me, oh, ma'am, your son is no longer here. Your son has passed away, and that's it. And your pastor can take you home. You're ready to, you can leave now, ma'am. As I walked out, I was so broken, so sick. And I walked out of that place. And when I went downstairs, there were so many students, because when this happened, it was at 3:30 in the afternoon. There was a VTA bus that was pulled over. They brought the bus, everyone from the bus in. They brought all the students. They had just got out of school. The bell rang. They had all the kids out there, and all I seen was backpacks and students. So I was like, what is this? What's going on? They said, oh, these are people they have to investigate. And this was my pastor explaining it to me. Like I said, I didn't get no kind of anything. So then I walk out and I start realizing, and then my sister calls me, oh, we're still in custody. They still have us. They had my son in custody. He had just came from an appointment. They had him in custody. I had to bail my son out of jail at 5 a.m. because they said that there's a lot of different stories going on. To this day, we have not received justice for my son. There was over 35 witnesses. We have not received any anything. There was DNA. There was a man that his nose was busted and he bled, and there was no kind of no leads, anything to this case. It's been 9 years since my son has passed away. I continue to keep his voice out there. I can continue to keep his legacy out there by talking, by sharing my story with the community, working with grieving mothers. I have a nonprofit that works with grieving mothers of all street violence, not only gang violence, but any mother that is grieving. I had to learn the system as a grieving mother, broken. The next day I had to find a chapel. I had to find a plot where to bury him. I didn't know any of that. I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know where my son was. I thought he was in a hospital and all that. He was in a morgue, and I didn't even know that. I thought he was in a hospital. And these are the things that families and mothers go through. And to not have some kind of nothing for the San Jose Police Department or the detectives to have something like some kind of resources or some kind of sympathy to help like navigate that for the families. You know, there was nothing there. I had to learn all this on my own and figure it out. So when there's other mothers, I connect with these mothers and I try my hardest to help them navigate this, to tell them this is what's going on, this is what's happening. And to this day, like I said, I don't mean to repeat myself, but to this day, we haven't received justice. Until recently, when Chief Mata was sworn in as a chief of police, I did sit down with him and I did ask him, I need some help. I need some answers. I need something. It's 9 years. And I talked to him about what I knew they had on the case. I knew they had DNA. And then I ended up, the first detectives I had never called me, never checked on me. Told me, oh, we're working on it. We're doing this, ma'am. We're doing this. Oh, we got DNA. We ran it through a system. We haven't got a hit. Come to find out, when Chief Mata and myself talked, I had 2 new detectives that were on the case, and they ran the DNA. After 4 months of running the DNA, they got a hit. And this person is in prison. The person that was bled on scene is in prison, but that's all they can tell me. There's nothing no one could tell me. They have to wait. They're investigating. And I just have to wait. And they said, hopefully the DA's office will pick this up. But till then, you just have to wait. So now I'm waiting again. I'm waiting again. And it's heartbreaking to just live day by day, one day at a time, and to teach families and mothers and brothers and sisters that there's a process and there's really not no process. There's really not a way. I'm not saying that it has to be, but there has to be something. There has to be some kind of communication when things like this happen. When a mother loses a child, you know, it's already devastating. They're already traumatized, and especially a homicide. It's traumatizing to go to your mother's house, because my son passed away in my mother's living room. He made it to her house and passed away. And to know that that's it. He's gone. They told me, and now go home and plan your funeral is really traumatizing. And I appreciate you guys, me sharing my story with you, but I think it's important, and I think it's something that needs to take process, and there needs to be change, and allow us to have some kind of platform to share our stories and to fix these problems in the community and the public safety for the families, you know, and we can always go back and forth, gangs and the community, and go back and forth. But at the end of the day, it was someone's life that was taken, and no one has a right to take someone's life. And at the end of the day, a mother deserves answers. You know, that's all I hold on to is the detectives. I don't have no one else to go to but the detectives. I hold on to them because I think they're the ones that are going to help me. They're going to, it's never going to bring closure. It's never going to bring my son back. I understand that, but it'll bring some kind of justice to us. And that's why it's so important for us to hold on to these detectives. We do call them, we do ask questions. Yeah, we might bug a little, but that's all we have. That's all we have. Once the case is solved, what do we have? We just go to the cemetery, and that'll be our lives. So I thank you guys, and I appreciate you guys for hearing my story, and find a little boy that is now is 12 years old, and my grandson asks me all the time, when are we going to get justice? When are we going to pass out flyers? Have you talked to the detectives? And I look at him like, wow, how do you know, but he's really, sometimes he's stronger than I am. And he says, we deserve justice. I deserve justice. I always tell the community, you might have silenced my son, but you did not silence me, and I am his voice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elsa. I'm sure everyone is feeling the pain, so thank you so much for unleashing that pain again and sharing your experience and your family's experience with us. I'm definitely feeling it.
Thank you.
And we're going to take a few minutes to hear from anyone if there's anything that you would like to share or recommend in light of hearing that lived experience testimony. How do we feel this information we heard can directly be tied to our work? What policy recommendations did you hear, or do you think will meaningfully help the community we are focusing on today, or our definition of community safety? And Sparky.
Yeah, I just feel like I have to make a comment to the last lived experience notes, because I do think, you know, I kept thinking, well, the DA's office is supposed to be doing these victim services, in some of this, but who even allows or is on the scene. You know, Bill Wilson Center has the Center for Living with Dying, and we often go out and support people grieving. But at that moment where there's police involvement, I do think maybe that's a recommendation we could also look at. And I keep wondering, I know we've been developing recommendations to date, but is there something that could be set up for situations like this that would bring support to, you know, families that are victims of when they've lost a loved one, and the police are sort of just locking them up in a sense and questioning them because they're seeing them as potential perpetrators, not as victims in this. So it's just spinning in my head how to provide more services. It's great. Forgot her name, that she set up her own nonprofit and support for mothers and stuff, but I'm trying to figure out how to embed something in the police response to victims like this. I'm just kind of talking out loud, trying to figure out something more we could do.
Elsa, did you have a response to that?
Yes. So what happens with the DA's office is that victim witness does come in, but it comes in after the fact. And it's and with victim witness, if you don't know that it's victim witness or you don't know this program, there's sometimes they're not given a card for victim witness because at the time of my loss, I didn't know about victim witness. So they have to give you a card and then you have to figure it out. Then you have to go fill out an application, and then you have to see if you qualify for the application. And sometimes families qualify and sometimes they don't qualify. For me, I had to fight to qualify for this program, which Mothers of Murdered Children, Margaret Petros helped me out. And the chief of police, Esquivel, helped me out to get these funds that were given to us at the time, but it's always after the fact. With our nonprofit, From the Streets to Grave, A Mother's Voice, that's what we do. We try to do an emergency response. And what we do is on Facebook, they tell us, hey, there was something happened on this street. We show up, we give them a candlelight visual, we work with the family and we work with the friends right away. We respond, but it's not like we're invited by the police department or anybody. We just show up because we know the grief and the pain that they're going to suffer and the questions they're going to have. And that's why we show up.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, since we're making recommendations about police, is, you know, maybe if you could inform one of our committees just what you would have liked to have seen that the police automatically did in this situation. Not just what you do, but is there something you would change about police response that we could recommend? That's, I guess, what I would like to learn more from you, that maybe we can recommend.
So for police response, what I would like to see is that they come like with a team, emergency response team, or some kind of a counselor or something that is right there on the scene that comes and works with the family and explains to the family, you know, because the way I was put in a room with my head spinning and trying to figure out everything on my own was it wasn't only traumatizing for me to know that I pulled up to a crime scene and my son is gone, but to be traumatized and plus be put in a room and just wait there for 5 hours is traumatizing also. So if there can be some kind of policy, or I don't know how to say it, but something in place where there's more compassion, more sympathy for the family, and more of a way of not being an interrogation, but something like a family room where they can start offering those services right there and then. I guess.
Okay.
Thank you. Ihoma?
Thank you. I just wanted to briefly respond to thank you for your sharing. And there are a number of recommendations that are related to critical incidents or sort of auditing what information the police share. And it's really helpful to hear this testimony and to take those into account as we figure out how to navigate the meet to confer and all of the various issues that the presenter brought up. So thank you again for sharing these.
Thank you.
Darcy?
Elsa, thank you so much for sharing the story and bringing your son into this space. I feel really honored to have heard this testimony from you. Lori invited us, some of us from the committees, to meet with some of the families who've also lost their loved ones to violence in the community. And we heard very similar stories of the initial treatment from police, of family members and loved ones who have just lost someone very dear to them before they were even able to figure out some of the details around what happened, and how much trauma and pain and harm that brought to families. And so with the families, our committee, the Prevention and Promotion Committee, has been developing a trauma reduction fund proposal or a trauma intervention fund proposal. And the idea behind it is that it would detach the victim services fund. So there's the victim services fund that exists in the district attorney's office, which we know you'd have to qualify for being a victim before you can access it. And there's all these other kind of barriers that could exist for people to access those funds. This would, or the resources available, and come sometimes way too late for families when they need them. This fund would be out of the city, would be a new fund, and it would be for people who've experienced violence. And it would be kind of this establishing a communal interest in healing trauma and for affected people. And just families in general who've been impacted by any violence. It could be gang violence, gun violence, street violence, police violence. And also trying to recognize and bringing some community dialogue around violence being violence regardless of where it comes from, and the needing for healing immediately. So it would offer some of the same, we have to kind of figure out what it might offer, but it would offer some of the same services in the district attorney's office. So it could be counseling, therapy, on-site resources, just a different way to handle families who've lost loved ones to violence. And it wouldn't go through the traditional channels of prosecutions or the criminal justice system. It would be available in a different way, much like how we saw with victims of the VTA shooting, with trauma resources being available for people right at the site of the incident or immediately after the incident. I wanted to also, like, Lori, if you wanted to add anything, but this is one of the responses that we were thinking of in partnership with the families that we met with at Debug, of how we might address some of these concerns that for families who have experienced the loss of a loved one to violence in our community.
Yeah, I wanted to add that, you know, at a family member's weakest moment, that police will take the families down and question them, like if they committed the crimes, right? That pattern, that there should be a support, not like a team of people to not allow police to do that, to inform the families. You're not obligated to go down there and be questioned and sat in an interrogation room. That is not, you know, that is not something that they are allowed to do, but they do it because people don't know the rights. And Chief Mata had told that to us families when we met with him. He said no family is obligated to go down to the police station, but that is not what the police do. They take the families, they put them under handcuffs, and they take them down there and question them for hours at a time at the weakest moment. And that is very evil in my part, at the family's weakest moment, for you to try to use whatever they say to vilify their loved one who just got murdered, whether it's community violence, police violence. They treat us all the same, and that has to stop. That mentality that right away want to criminalize and make them perpetrators, so this way the families do not qualify for victim services. And that's one of the barriers that a lot of families have. They try to use the person's record. They try to use whatever they can to make sure they get away from helping the families, right? So they leave the families with more trauma and stuff. So this is something that it affects a lot of the community. And that interrogation part, that needs to stop. We need to stop them from interrogating families and taking them down there at their weakest moment, because they don't even allow that to their officers. When they kill somebody, they give them time, you know, they come back in 12 hours, 24 hours, and they give them their space, and then they question them. So if they do that to their officers, they need to have the same respect and give that to grieving families who just lost somebody. So that's something that it's a big issue. And thank you, Elsa, for sharing your story. I know it was hard to relive that again, but I think that the community needed to hear that community violence and police violence are all in the same, especially if you're a Latina family, you get treated like you're a criminal. So that has to stop.
Elsa, I'd welcome your feedback from you and your nonprofit on the policy as we develop it.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
So I'd welcome your feedback from you and your nonprofit on the policy as we continue to develop it.
You want to answer that?
She's inviting you to just, when
Oh,
they
yeah,
develop
yeah.
it, to go talk to her about it.
Yes, I would love to connect with
Sorry
you.
if you
or
can't
connect-
hear me. I was saying I would love to send you the proposal for you to review, maybe for you and your nonprofit to take a look at and see if it addresses some of the concerns that you brought up today and the things you'd like to see changed.
Yes, I would love to be a part of that and look over it and give our opinions. Again, I work with, I have a team of grieving mothers that have lost their children, and it's not only through violence, it's also people that been ran over or different domestic violence. There's so many different mothers that we connect together. So yes, thank you very much for letting me see that. Appreciate it.
I'll connect you in an email, Darcy, with Elsa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elsa. Thank you, Lori, for that. And that's good to hear, Darcy. So we're going to go to the steering committee report from Darcy.
I am, okay, so this is not steering committee report, it's the committee, the promotion and prevention committee.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Okay, sorry, I was like, I am not prepared to give a steering committee report, but I can give this report. So we have, this is actually the additional recommendation that I was going to speak to, is that we've, as Sparky mentioned, as we're hearing more testimony and having these listening sessions, there's other ideas coming up, or there's changes to our existing policies that we're making and being responding to community feedback. So the additional policy coming out of our committee will be the trauma intervention or trauma response from the city of San Jose. So we'll make sure to get that up very soon, and you guys can take a look at that. We'll add it to the spreadsheet. And then the only other thing is that we are going to be combining our traffic enforcement or our streets policy with the policy coming out of the accountability committee around the Department of Transportation. So we'll make sure to give you the updated policy of those two and as they combine.
Thank you, Darcy. So there are other combined recommendations, I believe, as well. Oh, sorry. Schedule of meetings. Those are our next meetings really quickly. So we'll meet on the 30th, 6:30, April 6th, 6:30, April 13th, 6:30. And then there are some other recommendations that have been proposed that are combined as what Darcy mentioned. In addition to that, accountability 1.4.10, accountability 19 and 21, and the alternatives to safety response 2, and the prevention 5. So respective subcommittees should probably meet and convene and figure those things out to propose, just like Darcy said, to propose a combined recommendation. Any public comment on what we just explained? Okay, Tarab?
Just a really quick addendum to the steering committee report about the overlapping items. Each of the recommendations have a contact information. So essentially what we're asking is if you notice that your recommendation overlaps with somebody's, that shoot them an email to see if there's something that can be worked out between yourselves. And if that doesn't work, then we can look at a greater mechanism for overlapping it. But like Darcy's done, some of them might just be able to be hashed out like that.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to open forum. So again, anyone, attendees or panelists, if there's anything that you would like to speak to that wasn't addressed in today's agenda. Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna motion to adjourn. And
I second.
Great.